I want this video to work very much in conjunction with the previous one, where I broke down the structure for setting a poem to music for question 2. In this video I'm going to do a worked example, so I'm going to still be working on question 2, but I'm going to do it in real time. As you can see, I've not got anything prepared, I've only got what they've given me, and I'm going to try and compose one in real time for you to see how it's done. Okay, so when you open up your exam booklet, and if you decide to do question 2 as your melody question as opposed to 1 or 3, this is what you'll have in front of you. This is from the 2011 paper. You'll have a poem. In this case it's After the Battle by Thomas Moore. Oops, just switched it. Then you will have your 4 lines of the poem. So just down here you've got your 4 lines of the poem, and you'll have your instructions. Then beneath those, you're going to have the first line of that poem set to 4 bars of music. So what I'm going to do first, the very first thing I'm going to do is just map out which lines correspond to which bars. You don't particularly need to do this if you already know it in your head, but it's still good to do it. So the first line, that's going to be bars 1 to 4. Second line is bar 5 to bar 8. Then we've got 9 to 12, and then we've got 13 to 16. So just so I know which bars accompany which lines. Next thing I'm going to do in terms of a poem is look for maybe some places that I could have word painting. We discussed word painting in the previous video. There's always going to be a couple of places that you could put them in, words that really lend themselves well to music, that you can really paint those words literally with the music. You can not literally you can really illustrate those words with the music. A couple that I've noticed here straight away is the word faint. I mean, faint, we instantly associate the word faint with going down, with something becoming faint or weak. So we can really do that. We could have a bit with descending notes there. So I'm gonna draw an arrow out of that and write descending notes. So descending notes. Okay. You could also do it with dreadful. I mean, dreadful is quite a downhearted word, so you could also have the same thing, the exact same thing. You could have descending notes on that. So we've got 2 places there that we could do word painting. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to have word painting at those points when I come to the word dreadful and when I come to the word faint. What else we need to do is maybe we can have a couple of places with melisma. That's something we'll get to when we work with the music, but for the moment I'll just worry about the word painting. If we scroll down, we can instantly see as well what we've got in terms of the music here. We've got our key signature, so we know that we're in either B flat or in G minor, because we've got 2 flats in our key signature. And if we look at the first bar, we can see that it outlines a G chord. It starts on the note G, so it's probably a G minor, but just to check, to be absolutely certain, we need to see if we write out the scale of G minor. So I'll write it out here: G, A, B flat, D, E, oops, I left out a C. So B flat, G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, and F. That would be our scale of G minor, but we need to see anywhere in the music they've given us, the first 4 bars, have they raised the 7th of these? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Have they raised F anywhere? In other words, in the 4 bars they're giving us, is there an F sharp anywhere? And as you can see, there is. There's an F sharp. So we know that that is an F sharp as opposed to an F. Therefore, we know it's in G minor now. It's not in B flat. Okay. So we're in G minor. We're in 3/4 time. We have an anacrusis, an upbeat of 1 beat, which means that our phrase marks are going to be here, and there's going to be an extra crotchet somewhere after them, right around here. And I think we're ready to start composing. We have our layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over. Just give me a second, and we're going to start trying to compose our melody. Okay. So I've got this set up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have my anacrusis. I'm going to need to have a crotchet beat at the end here to begin a new phrase. I don't want to have it the exact same as the first phrase. I'm going to change it slightly. So instead of having that jump from the D up to the G, I'm going to have an F sharp. So it's going to jump. It's going to be just rising by a semitone from F sharp into G. And I'm going to have that same G minim that they've got here in my first bar. Okay, I need to look back at the words. So the words at this point were lightning slowed the distant hill. So how will I say that? Lightnings slowed the distant hill. So I've got 4 bars and I've got 4 accents. I've got lightnings, sorry, showed actually. Lightnings showed the distant hill. So lightnings, light, showed, dis or distant, and hill. Those are 4 accents across this line. So I'm going to have those as the first, on the first beat of each of my bars. So lightning showed the distant hill. Those are going to be my first ones. So if lightnings is my word in the first bar, and I have to be ready for showed at the beginning of the second, I can only have 2 notes here for those 2 syllables of lightnings. So that's light on a G. So that means I can only have 1 more note. So the only note I can fit in is a crotchet. So you know what, I'm going to have it the exact same as they've got. So this is going to be lightnings. Then I've got showed here. So it's showed there, because I need to be ready for distant to be on the first beat of bar 3. So it's showed there in bar 2. So that's only 2 syllables. Again, I can only have 2 notes. So I'm going to have the same rhythm as bar 1. I'm going to have minim crotchet. You know, they've got a B flat here, so I'm going to stick to a B flat. And for my crotchet, well, I suppose at this point, I'm thinking of a couple of different things. I have to think in terms of having a modulation set up here, because I'm modulating in bars 7 and 8, as I always do. So I'm going to be modulating. I'm in the key of G minor, so I'm going to modulate to the relative major of that, which is B flat. So at some point in bars 7 and 8, I need to be thinking ahead now that I'm going to modulate into the key of B flat. So that means I'm going to have the chords, if you remember from a minor key video on question 1, so it follows the exact same process. So I'm going to have chords 2 here, or chord 5, or chord 4. I'm going to have chord 2 here, chord 5 here, and then chord 1 here, all in the key of B flat major. So chord 2 and B flat major will be C minor, so I'm going to have a C minor chord in bar 7. Then chord 5 will be an F, so I'm going to have an F chord here, and then I'm going to have a B flat here in bar 9. So C minor, F, B flat. And if I remember correctly, I have only a crotchet left here, and I somehow have to lead to one of the notes of C minor. So what could I do? Well, I think I'm just going to lead straight to the C note. I'm going to try and land on a C note for my C minor chord at the beginning of bar 7. So I'm just going to frame that C note. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go B flat D and then jump back down to a C. Okay, so I'm landing on a C somewhere here at the beginning of bar 7. What I need to do now is go back to my words and think, what are my words going to be at this point? So I had, what was it? Lightning showed the distant hill. So I need to find the word hill for bar 8. So all I've got really in this bar in bar 7 here is the word distant, which again is 2 syllables. So you know what? I'm going to keep sticking to this minim crotchet rhythm. I can only have 2 syllables here. I'm in 3/4 time. Minim crotchet works quite well. So 2 syllables on the word distant, and it has to be on the notes of the chord C minor, because that's chord 2 for our modulation. So it has to be on the notes of C minor, and it also has to lead to the notes of F major, because F is chord 5. Remember, we're going to have chord 2, chord 5, and then chord 1, all in B flat. So I'm leading to an F major chord here, and I've only got 2 notes to do that. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I land on C here. I've only got one place here. I have to put my crotchet somewhere that's going to lead to one of the notes of F major. Now, you know what? I'm going to lead straight to the note F. F is like the home note of F major. So I want to land on an F at the beginning of this bar. And I need to lead to that with one of the notes of C minor. Well, actually, both the other notes, the notes to make up the chord of C minor are C, E flat, and G. We can do that in more depth in a theory video in future. But just for the moment, take my word for it that there's C, E flat, and G. So that means, because I've already had C, I'm going to have either G or E flat here, and that's going to lead to an F note. And both G and E flat will frame an F note really nicely. They'll lead to an F note in stepwise motion. So I could use either G or E flat here, and it won't really make much difference. But I'm going to use G, might as well. Why not? Okay, so it's lightnings. So it's lightning showed the distant hill. I'm on the word hill here, and I said I would land on F. And that's the end of a phrase, so I want to end on a long note, on a minim. So there we go, that's my first phrase. I'm just going to write in the words there so that you can see them all. So it's lightnings showed the distant mistake distant hill. And there we've got our first phrase. Okay, so we've modulated, and now we're going to have our next line, and our next line is those who lost the dreadful day. So again, we could still have our exact same rhythm here. We could have those who lost the dreadful day. We could still have minim crotchet, minim crotchet, minim crotchet, minim. And our accented words will be those who lost the dreadful day. So those lost dread and day. So it's going to work really, really well. What we need to do then is just think about in terms of our melody. We know our words, and we know that our rhythm is going to be minim crotchet, minim crotchet, minim crotchet, and then land on a minim at the very end. So we just need to think about our melody notes here. What we're going to do is, remember, we're just gone into the key of B flat major. We're on chord 5 here, so we want to have a chord 1 of B flat major here. We want to have a B flat chord here. So I'm going to lead nicely to that B flat chord by having an A note here. A is one of the notes of F major, so it really works with that F there, and it also leads really nicely up to the note B flat, which is the first note of the chord B flat. That's going to be on a minim. Remember we said it's going to be minim crotchet? So there we go, we're already starting on phrase 3, we're doing excellent. Okay, what I want to have here is my sequence, if you remember correctly. Sequence happens in bar 9 and bar 10. You don't actually have to have a sequence if you're setting the poem to music, but it still works quite well, so I'm going to do it. It's a really nice way to bring us back from our modulation into our original key of G minor. So, remember it has to be minim crotchet. I'm just going to have something like this. Rising in step sequence. So it's just one little rising step, then we got the same thing, sorry, we got one little jump here, and then we got the same thing a step higher in bar 10. Okay, so we have those who lost and then we're on the word dreadful. Now I said a few minutes ago that we could have another minim crotchet here, but you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have a bit of word painting here, because remember we said on the word dreadful we could do some word painting. So on the word dreadful I'm going to have word painting, and it's going to be, I'm going to do it by having, I'm going to mix that with melisma. Instead of doing just minim crotchet, I'm going to have 2 crotchets and a minim, and they're all going to be descending, like I said in the word dreadful. So, and what will I do? I have to target, so I have an imperfect cadence here. If you look back to our earlier videos, at the end of bar 11 and 12 we have an imperfect cadence. So we have to go from chord 1 to chord 5. So that means here in bar 11 I've got chord 1, which is G minor, because we've gone back to our original key of G minor now. And here in bar 12 I have to have chord 5, which is D. So I'm going to outline the chords of G minor here in a descending way to match our word dreadful for our word painting, and some melisma. And I'm going to have it as melisma. I'm going to have it as all crotchets rather than just minim crotchets. So the notes of G minor are G, B flat, and D, and I'm just going to do that descending. It's going to go D, B flat, and down to G. And this will go with our word dreadful. So that leads us really nicely then to one of the notes of D. But actually it could lead to either the chord D is made up of D, F sharp, and A. So this could lead really nicely to either F sharp or A. I'm going to end it on A. Okay. So let's just write in those words so you can all see where we're at now. So it's those who lost the dreadful day. So those who lost the dreadful day. Okay, so we've got phrases 1, 2, and 3 done now. We've got a little bit of word painting and some melisma here. We've got our modulation. We've got our sequence. Our words are all matched rhythmically. We've just had our imperfect cadence at the end of bar 12. Next, what we need to start thinking of is setting up that last line. So the words for the last line are stood few and faint, but fearless still. So stood few and faint, but fearless still. So few, faint, fear, and still need to be our accented beats. So stood few, so I'm going to have the word stood as an upbeat for when it cruises. And I'm going to have that as F sharp, just like I did up here. So stood, stood few. I'm going to stood few and faint. So that's going to be two notes again, few and. Stood few and faint. Faint has to land on the first beat of bar 14 here. So I'm going to have two notes here again, and you know what? I'm going to keep it the exact same. I'm not going to change anything. You have two notes here for few and faint. And I could do few and faint. I could do faint, but in this bar as a minim crotchet again if I wanted. But remember we said we do some word painting on the word faint. So I'm going to have a little descending pattern of faint like this. So it's few and faint across three crotchets. Now, if we remember, at bar 15 and 16, we have to have a perfect cadence. So we have to have chord 5 in bar 15, leading nicely to chord 1 at the end. So that gives that real good ending. So you know what? I'm going to have my and we also have to have T to do at the end. So I'm just going to have do in here to begin with straight away. So I got do. There, and I need to lead to that with T, so I'm going to have a crotchet on T at the end of this bar, but I'll do that at the end of bar 15. But I'll do that in a moment. First of all, we need to put the word fearless in. Now I could do fearless as a minim crotchet again. Fearless is two syllables, so we could have two notes. So I could have a minim crotchet there, but I'm going to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm going to do, I've just noticed I used this rhythm here, dotted crotchet, quaver crotchet at the beginning, and I haven't reused it anywhere. And I always like to use anything they've given me in the opening just to really show that I've paid attention to that. So I'm going to use the rhythm dotted crotchet, quaver crotchet in bar 15, and it has to be on chord 5. It has to be the notes of chord 5, and the last one has to be an F sharp at T to lead to our do at the end. So I'm on G at the end of bar 14. I need to have three notes in here in my dotted crotchet, quaver crotchet rhythm, and the last note needs to be F sharp. And I need to outline the chord of D, which is made up of the notes D, F sharp, and A. So you know what? I'm going to start with A of those notes of D. Actually, that's meant to be a dotted crotchet, so I'll just fix that. Okay, I'm going to have my quaver on G, and that leads me perfectly down to have my crotchet on that F sharp just before the G at the end. Okay, let's just write in the words there. So I need to scroll down a little bit. So we've got few and faint, and then we're on but fearless still. Just realized I've also left out some words up here. So on this note, I should have the word where, and on this note, I should have the word stood. So, okay, and that is our question. That is question 2. So we've got our word painting on the word dreadful. We've got word painting on the word faint. We've got a bit of melisma. We've got it on both those words and also on the word fearless. We've used a lot of the ideas that they've given in the beginning, the rhythms, like the dotted crotchet, quaver crotchet, but also the quaver to crotchet rhythm. We use it throughout. We've matched, I just realized I've left out one of the letters of light. We've matched our words to our syllables to our notes very, very well. We followed our format. We've got our imperfect cadence, we've got our perfect cadence, we've got our modulation, we've got our sequence. So that's everything you need to think about. A lot of it is the same as question 1. You just also need to be very conscious of the words matching this, the syllables of the words matching your rhythms for your notes. And also try to get in a little bit of word painting and a little bit of melisma. just before I finish up, I'm going to just give you a quick listen.
Oops.